Excuse me, can I help you? You look suspicious.
What? I live here. I just moved in last week.
Really? Are you sure you got the right house?
Yes, I am sure. My name is on the
I'm
lease.
calling the police. I think you're breaking in.
You're calling 911 on a neighbor because of the way I look? I'm a therapist, and you're wasting police resources.
Rebecca Thompson had lived in the Buckhead luxury apartment complex in Atlanta for 7 years. In those 7 years, she'd called 911 41 times. 41. 33 of those calls involved black people she deemed suspicious in her building or surrounding area. A black teenager visiting his grandmother was reported as gang activity. A black woman using the gym was reported as unauthorized access to amenities. A black delivery driver bringing packages was reported as loitering with suspicious packages. Every call followed the same pattern. Black person exists in her vicinity. Thompson calls 911. Police respond. No crime found. Thompson faces no consequences. One Sunday morning in Atlanta, her 7-year pattern of weaponizing 911 against black neighbors finally confronted someone who'd spent 12 years helping people heal from trauma, understood the psychological damage of racial profiling firsthand, and had the professional credentials to fight back. That confrontation would result in her eviction, cost her $110,000 in a civil lawsuit, and expose an apartment complex that had tolerated 41 false police reports over 7 years. Marcus Johnson, a 38-year-old licensed therapist, was moving boxes into his new luxury apartment in Buckhead. His therapy licenses were packed in one box, his professional certifications in his briefcase, his signed lease agreement in his folder. No crime, no trespassing, no violation, just a therapist moving into an apartment he'd legally rented. But Rebecca Thompson saw him through a lens so warped by racial bias that she couldn't process a black man carrying boxes as a legitimate tenant. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Hit that subscribe button. These stories need to be heard. Atlanta, Georgia. Buckhead, one of the city's most affluent neighborhoods known for upscale shopping, dining, and luxury residences. The apartment complex featured valet parking, a concierge desk, and a saltwater pool. Monthly rent started at $2,800 for a one-bedroom. It was 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning, temperature 74 degrees, clear skies. Marcus Johnson had been a licensed clinical therapist for 12 years, specializing in trauma and racial stress at Emory Healthcare. He'd graduated from Morehouse College, then earned his master's in clinical psychology from Columbia University. He'd worked with veterans suffering from PTSD, children who'd experienced abuse, and countless black professionals dealing with workplace discrimination and racial trauma. He'd published articles on the psychological impact of racial profiling, presented at national conferences, and supervised other therapists. He'd helped hundreds of clients heal from the exact type of incident he was about to experience. That morning, Marcus had rented a U-Haul to move from his old apartment in Midtown to a new place in Buckhead, closer to his practice. He'd signed the lease, picked up his keys from the leasing office, and was carrying boxes through the lobby when he heard an accusatory voice. Do you think neighbors should verify information before calling 911? Drop your answer below. Rebecca Thompson had made those 41 calls to 911 over 7 years. 33 involved black people in her building or neighborhood, a pattern so clear it should have resulted in consequences years ago. But Atlanta PD responded to every call, found no crimes, and nothing changed. Building management received complaints about Thompson's behavior but took minimal action. That morning, Thompson was returning from brunch when she saw Marcus carrying boxes through the marble lobby. "Excuse me, you can't be here with those boxes." Marcus turned, slightly confused. "I'm moving in. I signed my lease last week." "Moving in where? I've lived here for years and I've never seen you." Marcus set down his box. "I'm moving into 9D. I'm a new tenant. Just picked up my keys this morning." "This is a respectable building. I'm calling the police." Marcus felt his therapist training kick in. He recognized the pattern immediately. "Ma'am, I'm a licensed therapist. I work at Emory Healthcare. I have my lease agreement, my keys, my ID. There's no need to call the police." Thompson was already pulling out her phone. "We'll let the police decide if you belong here." "If I belong here, I'm a tenant. I signed a lease. I have every right to be here." Thompson dialed 911, speaking loudly enough for Marcus to hear every word. "Yes, there's a black man in our building with boxes claiming he's moving in. I don't recognize him. He could be stealing from apartments. Please send someone immediately." Marcus pulled out his own phone and began recording. "Ma'am, what's your name?" "That's none of your business." You just called 911 on me for moving into my own apartment. I'm documenting this. I'm a therapist who specializes in racial trauma. I help clients heal from exactly this type of racial profiling, and now I'm experiencing it myself. Should people face consequences for weaponizing 911? Let me know what you think. 2 Atlanta PD officers arrived 15 minutes later. Officer James Washington and Officer Lisa Martinez, both experienced officers who'd responded to Thompson's calls before. They entered the lobby where Marcus was now sitting on a bench, his recording still running. "Sir, we received a call about suspicious activity. What's the situation?" Marcus stood and spoke calmly. "I'm Marcus Johnson, licensed clinical therapist at Emory Healthcare. I signed a lease for apartment 9D last Tuesday. I picked up my keys from the leasing office this morning at 9:30 a.m. I've been moving boxes from my U-Haul for about an hour. That woman called 911 because she's never seen me before and doesn't believe I'm a tenant." Officer Washington asked, "Do you have documentation?" Marcus handed over his folder. "Lease agreement signed last Tuesday, effective today. Driver's license matching the lease. Keys to 9D. Emory Healthcare employee ID showing I'm a licensed therapist. Email confirmation from the property manager about my move-in. Everything you need." Officer Martinez reviewed the documents and recognized the pattern immediately. "Sir, you're clearly a legitimate tenant. Everything checks out." She turned to Thompson. "Ma'am, this is the 8th time this year you've called 911 about people in this building. This gentleman has a valid lease. He's not trespassing. He's moving in." Thompson's face reddened. "I was just being careful. You can't be too safe these days." Officer Washington's tone was firm. "Ma'am, calling 911 on someone because you've never seen them before isn't being careful. It's harassment, and it's becoming a pattern." Marcus spoke up. "Officers, I'd like to know the exact number of times she's called 911 and how many of those calls involved black people." Officer Martinez hesitated, then nodded. "According to our records, she's made 41 calls over 7 years. The majority involve people of color." Marcus was recording everything. "I want a formal report filed. Rebecca Thompson?" He'd learned her name from the mailbox. "Called 911 on me for moving into my own apartment. I'm a therapist who helps people heal from racial trauma. The irony isn't lost on me." A man walking his dog entered the lobby and stopped. "Marcus, is that you?" Marcus recognized him. "Mr. Peterson? You're my daughter's therapist. You helped her through her anxiety disorder. What's happening here?" Marcus explained the situation. Mr. Peterson immediately vouched for him and called the building manager on his cell phone. Within 25 minutes, the property manager arrived, Jennifer Lee, who'd been documenting Thompson's complaints for years. "Mr. Johnson, I'm so sorry. Ms. Thompson has repeatedly called police on residents and visitors. We've sent her multiple warning letters." Marcus remained calm but firm. "Warning letters? She's called 911 41 times in 7 years, 33 times targeting black people. That's not a warning situation. That's a pattern of racial harassment. I'm a licensed therapist. I help people recover from racial trauma, and I was just subjected to it while moving into my own home." Jennifer Lee nodded. "Mr. Johnson, you're absolutely right. This ends now." By that afternoon, building management issued Rebecca Thompson a 30-day eviction notice for violating the lease's anti-harassment policy. Thompson hired an attorney and appealed, claiming she was simply concerned about building security. The appeal was denied. Management cited her documented pattern of false reports targeting people of color. Marcus filed a civil lawsuit against Rebecca Thompson for harassment, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of Georgia civil rights laws. His complaint included Thompson's 41 calls over 7 years, her pattern of targeting black people, and the specific emotional and professional harm of being racially profiled as a mental health professional who treats racial trauma. Thompson's defense attorneys argued she had legitimate safety concerns, but her call records demolished that defense. 33 calls about black people, 8 about other issues, 0 crimes ever found. Expert witnesses, including other therapists, testified about the psychological impact of such harassment. The case settled 18 months later. Rebecca Thompson paid Marcus Johnson $110,000 in damages. She was also required to complete 40 hours of racial bias counseling and perform 200 hours of community service at organizations serving communities of color. Why do people weaponize 911 against their black neighbors? Comment your thoughts. Marcus testified before the Atlanta City Council, bringing his professional expertise to bear. I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I've spent 12 years helping people heal from trauma, including racial trauma. I've counseled black professionals who've been profiled at work, students who've been followed in stores, parents who've had police called on them at playgrounds. I help them process the psychological damage of being treated as suspicious simply for existing. He paused. And then it happened to me. Rebecca Thompson called 911 on me for moving boxes into my own apartment. She made 41 calls over 7 years, 33 targeting black people. From a clinical perspective, that's not vigilance. That's a pathological pattern of racial bias that causes real psychological harm to its victims. He continued, as a therapist, I can tell you that being racially profiled creates lasting stress, anxiety, hypervigilance, and trauma. The $110,000 settlement doesn't erase that harm, but accountability matters. Police responded to her 41 calls and found 0 crimes. The system enabled her harassment until she targeted someone with the professional standing to fight back. Atlanta PD implemented comprehensive policies, financial penalties for repeated false 911 calls, automatic investigation after 3 unsubstantiated calls from the same person, mandatory counseling referrals for chronic callers, community education about appropriate emergency services use. This wasn't about one Sunday morning. This was about Rebecca Thompson making 41 false calls over 7 years with 0 consequences until she targeted a mental health professional. Thompson paid $110,000 and lost her apartment, but that came after 7 years of unchecked harassment. Comment if 3 false 911 calls should trigger automatic intervention, and if these stories matter, hit that subscribe button. We're exposing people who weaponize emergency services against black neighbors. This isn't about one woman or one therapist. It's about holding people accountable for racial harassment disguised as safety concerns.